Hello, welcome to Friday, the Friday edition of our class, our online class. I got through week one. I'm going to email you all individually sometime this weekend or by Monday. Just kind of get your thoughts, get where we are going forward towards week two. A couple things I want to talk about. One, I have been reading the discussion board. Love all the comments. Some of you are doing a really good job of interacting with others, and that's part of the key to that. Some of you have seen that something that somebody else has written and replied to that. Love that. I got to find a way that I can comment individually on each of your comments. So I'll figure that out. Sometimes I'm a little techno delayed, but I'll get that to work. Gabby, talked to Coach Stone. Told you you're in my class. He said good things about you, so we've got that. And how about this? We're going to talk about ethics today. And so I'll start off by telling you all that I lied to you. And I apologize about that. I lied because yesterday's was long and kind of drawn out. Today's will be long and drawn out also. Remember, I told you yesterday we won't do this very often. We'll get this one more. But we're going to talk about ethics, and it's a very important thing. And we all know people that don't have our ethics, don't share what we have ethically. And that's one of the great things that about college, I think. And I told my daughter this as she left high school. It's a chance. It's a rebirth. It's a regeneration. You can be around the people you want to be around. Where high school, you're kind of forced to be in this little group. College is different, and you guys are in that state, and you're moving forward. I want to talk about just some ethical situations. I'm going to give you an ethical situation that I had in my life, in my career, and we'll talk about that in just a minute as well. So let's get into today's discussion about ethics, end of week one. So I know we're all excited about it being finished. Today we're going to just talk about the roles ethics plays in being a manager. We all want to be a manager. This is an operations class. I think we all want to be a manager. I'd be interested to see if that's true or not. There are some norms consulted in making ethical decisions, how organizations and people use codes of conduct, and we all have things called mission statements to define ethical principles, and then some common ethical issues faced by media management. I'll show you another one next week that I find interesting in how to implement an ethics program at electronic media organization. Some businesses, the media has probably never been under this much siege. You hear this a lot from the president and others that fake news, and there are some things out there that are fake news, but you just have to be able to understand that and know the difference. So managers make numerous decisions every day involving routine activities. So we've got some ethical dilemmas. How about this going on at Facebook? And we talked the other day about dual product, and now because of what's happening, you're the product. You've become the product. We've all become the product. Facebook engineers are now quitting or trying to transfer to Instagram or WhatsApp, according to the New York Times. The reason is there's some dissatisfaction from the reports that Cambridge Analytica worked on the president's 2016 campaign and had obtained data from 87 million Facebook profiles. And there's a lot of people that have argued that Facebook could have and should have handled the data more responsibly, or frustrated that the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, was silent for days after the reports surfaced. So that's a great situation there. Facebook has this dilemma, right? People talking about the scraping of their data and how do they handle it. And people have argued they should have done something differently. They could have handled it more responsibly. And it turned out, they did the best they could, but it was an ethical situation that they had to discuss there in that setting. Some other things. How about a budget? When you work at a company, you have to deal with a budget. Where you're spending money, how you're diverting funds. If you are in charge of a budget, you have to decide things like, hey, am I going to get myself things that I wouldn't necessarily get other people? Am I going to use an expense account to do things? Am I going to help my brother-in-law who's got a graphic design business and gear some money his way? Hey, there was a guy that worked at a hospital here in town that for years and years got away with every year he would spend a couple $100,000 with these businesses. He would handle the invoicing and everything else. And it turned out these businesses were made up, fake, phony businesses, and he was putting the money in the bank. Guess what? He got caught. It's you have to handle the budget. Personnel, how you're dealing with people, how you're handling people. Had an employee last year who was sexually harassing another employee. You have to deal with those things. Again, are you hiring somebody because you're the right person? Are you hiring somebody because you know them? Are you hiring somebody because a friend of yours knows them? What are the ethics involved in that? Personnel. And then, you deal a lot in marketing promotion. You get a taco, you get a taco. Oprah likes to give away cars and other things. We give away gift cards here at Texas Tech Athletics to people that come to games. Do the employees that handle those things, is it okay to take a $10 Dunkin' Donuts gift card and treat your buddies and yourself to some donuts and coffee? Again, those are questions and things that you face as part of management, what people are doing. Some situations force managers to confront their own personal system of morals and values. Can you think of things like that? Can you think of a situation where you have been put around a situation where you were having to question that and question, is this a place you want to work? I used to work at a place where the CEO wanted to change his numbers on his financial forms to make himself look better to the bank. And he insisted that we do that. I just didn't feel good about that, and that decided that was not a place I wanted to work. Again, my decision, not his decision, not anything that affects anybody but me and him and the business, but I had to make those decisions. We all get faced with those things that you have to deal with. I've got another one here that see if I can handle. Put me back on screen here. See if I can handle again dealing with technology. Let's watch this video. So I was the manager of the PBS station here in town, Lubbock, Texas, right? So very conservative town. You got to remember that. We have a PBS has some shows called Must Carry, Common Carry, that everyone, all the stations carry. Then they have other programs that it's up to you to be able to decide if you want to carry them now. We also had a series called POV, Point of View. POV stood for Point of View. And so this video is going to come out, this program, on POV. So I watched it. I watched the entire program. I'm going to just show you the trailer for it. So let's watch the trailer.
Lance Tiller was a target of anti-abortion extremists. Wichita Clinic was bombed in 1985, and then, at the age of 67, he was murdered at church.
The death of Dr. Tiller leaves only 4 doctors in the country who are able to perform late-term abortions.
There was absolutely no question in any of our minds that we were going to keep on doing this work. What really got me interested was when they started shooting doctors.
I got 5 shots fired through the front windows of my office. Many, many times I felt so alone.
How many times have you received threatening phone calls because of what I do?
People call and I just hang up.
When I walk out the door, I expect to be assassinated.
Our goal is not merely to make abortion illegal, but to make it unthinkable.
Late-term abortions, this is where everybody draws the line.
They said I was an abomination and should be driven from the state.
I immediately started getting death threats in the middle of the night.
You don't give in because it only gets worse. If I just give up and stop doing anything after 20 weeks, some women may get desperate and do things on their own. There's something that needs to be done.
What drives women to seek a third trimester abortion? Unless people understand what's going on for the woman, it's impossible to support it.
It's guilt no matter which way you go. Guilt if you go ahead and do what we're doing, or bring him into this world and then he doesn't have any quality of life.
You have choices. They all suck.
Sometimes it's been hard for me to feel that I could continue.
Of course you don't want an abortion. Nobody wants an abortion.
She has a disease where she can't bend at her joints.
It could be a stillborn.
She's just too far along and I can't help her. What's the right thing to do? What's really helping people?
I just thought the other day, I can't retire, my God. There aren't enough of us.
So as you can see, it's going to be a bombshell, right? It's going to be extremely controversial. It's going to be extremely, when you look at it, it's going to be something that really a lot of people are going to have thoughts on, right? A lot of people are going to. It's a subject that makes people uncomfortable and has people that on different sides of it, on different sides of the coin on it. And so I had to think about being in Lubbock, Texas, and how that would affect the audience. I watched the entire show. One of the things that I looked at to make sure they presented both sides fairly, right? Sometimes you'll see a movie like this and they'll make one side seem crazy. I didn't want to make it look like the people that were against the abortions were crazy. And they weren't. They did it. They presented them in a very fair light, I thought. And it was something that I really struggled with. I thought about it every night. Had a couple weeks to think about it, make a decision, and I decided to air the program. It was really well done, and I thought it presents both sides, and it showed both sides. It wasn't promoting abortions. It was showing late-term abortions in states where it was legal, and so went with it. Well, I took a firestorm. A lot of people calling the chancellor's office, president's office, demanding that I be fired. There was one lady in particular in town who made it her personal mission to just seek me out at places, and I actually walked to my car at night for a while, worried about what was going to happen. And that was before the program even aired. So it aired I remember this on Labor Day, on the Monday night, Labor Day, 9 o'clock at night. I watched the program, waited for my phone to ring. Afterwards, it didn't ring. Got some calls the next day, heard from people throughout, and eventually everyone moved on down the road. But it was an ethical decision, right? It's something that you have to say. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. But you've got to make the decision. And I thought long and hard about it. I talked to a few different people, but in the end, I made my own decision. And I stand by it. I think it was the right decision to make. It was a very well done documentary, and that's what PBS is about. And in the long run, it was, I believe it was the right decision to do. So the study of ethics helps us because it provides ideas, right? It gives you the means to make the difficult moral choices that confront us, both personally and professionally. So a lot of people talk about ethics. I'm not even sure it should be what are ethics or what is ethics. Ethics is concerned with basic questions about what is right, what is wrong. It involves the character and conduct of institutions and individuals. I love the movie Princess Bride. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And I think about that sometimes, ethics. Sometimes I think people apply ethics situationally. I think sometimes people apply ethics where they see fit. And I'm not being judgmental. We all make mistakes. We all stumble. We all fall. But it's something that it's part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. You know how many times people ask me for free tickets to something? It's an ethical decision. The answer is always no. We don't have them. So ethics reflects a society's norms about what's right, what's wrong, and that's morally. There's some approaches to studying ethics. We don't necessarily care about these normative ethics. Basically says, hey, what ethics are most relevant to society? Ethics may also be examined in terms of organizations and what an organization feels is right and what their code of ethics is. And then we all have our own personal code of ethics that leads us day to day and throughout our lives. So an organization may adopt its own code of ethics and then maybe written or just implied, hey, you work here, buddy, this is the way we do things. Or you could say, hey, look, here's your little book. Here's your, I'm trying to look. I gotta, if I remember to show the video again, got a book here. It's the Texas Tech's strategy and ethics and all that. It's in there. Most businesses have one. It's just how much you apply those. When groups or ethics exist, and again, you might work in a place that just goes against what you believe in, and that becomes your decision then whether you want to continue to work there or do you want to find someplace else to apply your trade. And if you listened at all on day one, you know what my answer would be. If you're not happy and you're not satisfied and things are bothering you, my choice is always to find something else. Disruption can be a good thing. The book identifies 5 duties of employees in media in all levels of management and non-management. So just walking through the door. You have a duty to yourself, right? You have individual integrity and the strength to follow your conscience. How about that? If making up sources, creating stories when there's not stories there, telling somebody that something's going to be off the record and you don't keep it that way. Those are decisions you yourself have to make. You have a duty to the audience, your subscribers, PBS supporters. You've got to consider them when deciding on a particular course of action. I thought about that. I thought about those things when I made that decision to show that film. Right? I thought about, hey, is this going to cost us dollars? Is this going to cost us money? Are people going to stop supporting us because of this? I thought about it. Obviously, you have a duty to your employer, the organization. The duty to where you work sometimes outweighs what you think. I'm trying to think. This isn't really ethics, but I'll give you kind of an example. We have a clear bag policy at our events. I don't necessarily think it's, and a lot of places do that. I don't necessarily think it's the greatest thing that's going to make any place safer or anything, but I have a duty to my employer, Texas Tech, to go out there and say, clear bag policy is a great policy. This is why we do it. I have that duty. We have a duty to our colleagues, and you want to understand that there are other people in your industry. You're paving the way for others behind you, others before you pave the way, and you need to act in the way that makes those things, makes your industry what you would consider ethical. And then we all have a duty to society. There's all kinds of things: privacy, confidentiality, scenes of sex and violence online, on television, words that can be said on television. There is a duty to society that we all have to think about. And we've become a little bit numb to it now. I mean, when I was your age, things we see on television now would never be seen on television. But it's changed. Life has changed. The world has changed. So there's 5 factors that complicate the making of ethical decisions. Ethical decisions have extended consequences, right? So my decision to carry that movie, that film, affected everyone in the building, right? Everyone in the building have neighbors, friends, people in the community that to some extent judge them based on the fact that we carried that film. My decision had extended consequences. There's usually many alternatives. I could have said, hey, we're going to air it at 2 a.m. We're going to air it Sunday at 3 a.m. There's alternatives. It wasn't just air it or not air it. I could have also found a different place to put it. Generally, we have some alternatives in our decisions. Have mixed outcomes. They produce benefits and costs that managers may or may not foresee or want to deal with. So I'll go back to my example of the film. The mixed outcomes would be I had some Board of Regents members tell me not to run it, and I did. I didn't lose my job over it, but I could have. That could have been an mixed outcome. On a positive side, I think the national office of the PBS station felt really good that we were going to do the right decision, and think about the station more so than pressure from people. So there's a mixed outcome. There's uncertain consequences. I'm going to show you one in a minute of an uncertain consequence, and it's also called unintended consequences. You make a decision, and something happens that you had no idea would ever happen. So you can never predict, hey, this is what's going to happen after I make this decision. And there's always personal implications. You have your own values, you have your own beliefs. You have to think about all things. I can't tell you the amount of sleep I lost whether to show that film or not. It was a tough decision, and there's always personal implications. I can give you a million cases of unintended consequences, but I love this story. And it may or may not be true. I think it's probably a little bit of falsehood to it, but in India in the 1800s, they were having a slew of deaths by cobra. There was a lot of cobra attacks. So they put out a bounty on cobras, saying, hey, if you provide us, you give us this cobra, you bring in a cobra skin, we will pay you money. Well, so some enterprising people in India thought, hey, the more cobra skins we can produce to the government to get paid for cobras, we can make more money. So people started farming cobras. They started raising cobras so they could bring in more cobras and get paid more money. Well, the government said, gosh, that's not what we intended. Let's stop doing that. And so what happened? People that were raising cobras released them into the wild. So now you have considerably more cobras than you ever had before. Unintended consequences. That's a tough thing you have to deal with. So I'm gonna try to finish this up. Short one. We'll have 2 videos today. After you watch this, go on. I'm gonna put on there. I'm gonna talk a little bit about. I gave you 2 examples, and I'll put that on there, and I'll get things started on mine on the discussion board. And so watch that, and then talk about maybe some ethical decisions you've had to come up with in your life, and then we'll come back and watch video 2. So appreciate your time, efforts, considerations. Let me find a way to stop this thing, and we'll get going. So we will talk to you soon.